do the following thing. This is the tip of the year, okay?
Could you talk us through what a day in the life of the VP of Engineering at DappRadar looks like?
Because, and here comes maybe the unpopular opinion.
You guys have been building in a bear market. What's that been like?
I didn't mention it, but you hit the nail on the head, and it's quite an important thing. For me, it's already of course.
Is there any particular challenge that you'd love to have a go at solving?
The faster you figure this out for your own life, the better.
Welcome to the Behind the Blockchain podcast. Today I'm joined by Michael Ionita, VP of Engineering at DappRadar. Michael, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here, and I'm great.
Michael, for people who don't know who you are, could you give us a bit of an intro?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, you already mentioned I'm VP of Engineering at DappRadar, and I also have a YouTube channel where I talk about no-code and Web3, which is quite an interesting combination. And I am many things, right? Because the older you get, the more things you get hung on your back, right? So, for example, I am also in the board of directors of something called Austrian Startups, where we fight for better regulation, better taxes, and so on, better company structures in Austria. It's a small country, but hey, I care about it. I live here, right? So I do these things. And I also I care about the Web3 space and to share information about what it does and how it works and how it will change businesses and lives because I really care about the future.
Great. So could you just talk us a little bit more about your career journey so far? So what's brought you to this point?
Oh, wow. Yeah, many things, I guess. So to this particular point, I think my studies at the Technical University, if you go way back, right? Because, or even way back, even further back, actually, it's a friend of mine, we're still friends, who is older, and thus I learned from him, right? So he started developing code and playing with computers back when computers were still quite expensive. And I was interested because we met a lot, right? So I was like, what are you doing? Show me. Yeah. And then I thought, it's cool. I can do that as well. So he was kind of I copied from him, right? So, and then I wanted to go to the technical university like him, right? And then at some point our ways parted. So I did my own thing and so on. But at the beginning, I thought he's a cool role model and I can learn. So basically he dragged me kind of in without wanting into the tech space. But maybe it's not him. If you go even further back, my father is also a tech person, programming, robot arms and conveyor belts and stuff, whatever. So it's kind of close, yeah. But then to get here, basically, you need to really. I think where I am right now, you need to have leadership skills because I'm leading an engineering department. So it's not so much about me coding some particular thing, although I do sometimes smart contract coding, which I really enjoy, but it's more like leading a team and making sure they know what the direction is, why they're doing something or solving some big problems together with them, making sure you get all the roadblocks out of their way so they can continue, being productive and fast. And that's what makes them happy, right? So if you want to have an engineering team, by the way, that is happy, you need to give them a big challenge and you need to make sure they have all the tools they need to tackle that challenge. So it's like a game, right? And you need to remove all the obstacles. And that's it. Like you let them loose with those three elements and boom, right? You have a quite efficient engineering team. And I learned that by founding my own startup, for example, by helping, by advising other startups, seeing all the issues that can happen. Right? You see multiple departments, you see how they work together, you see where the friction is. And so, and this knowledge you can't forget, right? And then so now with all this knowledge, I can lead the engineering team quite nicely, I think.
Great. And so you took the typical route of software engineering to tech lead to engineering manager and through to VP of engineering, or slightly different, varied route? How did you go about it?
Yeah, I think my path is not standard whatsoever. It would be nice, because then people would relate easier, but it's not. So unfortunately, let me tell you, yeah. So I started by working freelance as a developer at some agencies, nothing major. But then I thought, hey, I can do it way better. Like they don't know what they're doing. I can do it much better. I created my own business, yeah. And so of course I didn't, yeah. But it doesn't matter. Yeah? You have to try, and that's where in the age of 20 something, you think you know everything, yeah. And I started my own company, and I didn't just start a software company. It would be super easy. No, I started a hardware business where I sold physical stuff which had electronics inside. Yeah, sure, there was software involved, but we had to produce physical things, ship them all over the world. Like, why would I make my life easy if I can also make it hard? And so that was my first startup. But the cool thing is we worked with massive companies because the solution we had, you can check it out, Real Life Connect. uh, uh, well, that was the business. You can Google it. I think there's still some material out there, but it's quite some time ago, so you don't find the website anymore. But you might find some archive material. But anyway, we had stations with electronics and cameras and Wi-Fi and 3G and 3G back then, yeah, to connect to the internet, so that with NFC, with near field communication, you could tap it to the station and take a photo and put it directly on your Facebook or directly on LinkedIn or whatever, yeah. And not only this, but also you can connect if you put two chips, because they know who you are. You can get a connection request on LinkedIn automatically while you're actually at an event, stuff like this, yeah. And only like Toyota, Louis Vuitton, Nestle, Johnny Walker, and so on, these companies, they had the money to actually pay for such installations because they were not cheap. But I was lucky because those events that they organized using our technology on site, they were quite huge and all over the world. So I was able to travel the world with this business because they needed us we were a 7 people team. So I was almost everywhere helping, and I was responsible, right? So you feel the responsibility on your shoulders to be on site and make sure it works. So that was the first thing that gave me a lot of knowledge about leading something, getting investor money, for example. How do you deal with investors? How do you report to these people and so on? That was the first touch point. But then basically after I sold the company, I didn't do anything for 1 year. I mean, almost anything. I helped startups build some prototypes and, just basically having a good time. And then I got approached by Mobfox, which is an advertising company. I spent a lot of time there building a completely new R&D department. And I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for my friend, which I mentioned in the beginning, that I learned from him this technological. I got the virus from him basically for this technological love, because he was working there, and he said, "Wow, we need help. There's so much to do. What the hell?" Right? So I said, "Okay, I want to help you." So I went into the business to help him, but actually I helped the whole business because I really like him. I want to make sure that he has a good life, but he was kind of struggling there because it was a mess, right? So that was very nice. And here it becomes very strange, the next thing, because after that, I was leading the biggest hackathon in the world because of the crisis that we had, the virus. Yeah. So there was the European Commission. They said, hey, we need some guy to lead this because we don't have the resources. We don't know how to make an online Europe-wide hackathon, where everyone can participate. And we bring Europe together and we show strength and connectivity and whatever, and bring solutions out, from this. And so they didn't have any budget, because budget needs to be approved way early because it's freaking official money from taxes, right? So they don't have any money. There was not a lot of time. So the only way to solve it, to keep it short, was to use no-code tools that where I was able to click together business logic for voting systems and signing up and finding teams and submitting your projects and all these things. We didn't have any of that, right? So we didn't have time to develop this because it would take weeks. We had only days, okay? So I used no-code tools, and that was it worked. And that fascinated my brain so much because I didn't know that no-code tools can be so helpful. And then I started a YouTube channel talking about no-code tools and how cool they are and so on and whatever you can do. And this is why I have the channel, right? So suddenly I was a YouTuber as well. So it's not normal path at all, okay? And then and so on. I will not go through the whole CV, but I started doing YouTube, and YouTube basically opened up a lot of doors, because once you share your knowledge in this way, then people see you, they hear you, and if you're saying smart things and what you're saying makes sense, then you build trust. Okay, so then from that it opens another door that you didn't have before or didn't open before, which is people approach you suddenly for cool projects like DappRadar, because they see you online. Okay, so if they have to compare you with another guy they never saw before, but compare with you who they saw on YouTube 5, 10, 20 videos, like it's very easy to pick the guy that you saw already. You hear his voice, he has, people like his channel and so on. So it is quite powerful move to have your own YouTube channel, to wrap it up like this. So that's my path where I am now. Yeah.
And obviously, throughout your career, building your personal brand has obviously really helped you achieve the positions, especially now with DappRadar through the YouTube channel. Do you have any tips for people who may be thinking, how do I even go about building a personal brand? What do I even talk about? How do I go about it? Any tips?
Yeah. I think uh, I think the best way to do it is to pick a topic that you're really passionate about. It doesn't have to be necessarily a work-related topic. Sure, it's super practical, but if it's not, yeah, it doesn't matter. And you just simply start talking about it and start sharing your passion for that thing. And in video form, okay, I care about video. It's really important format for me. Yeah, so video, and YouTube is nice because think about it. Yeah, if you create any content on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, pick your social network, it disappears. Okay, you create it, but then it's gone. They see it maybe for a day or not even. Yeah, and that's nobody will look at it ever again, most likely. Okay, but on YouTube is different because YouTube has it's a search engine where you can search for stuff, right? And your video can be found 5 years from now because it's still relevant to solve some issue that people have, and you made a video about it, right? So it's very different. So your video can really be long-term useful, which generates you more views and also advertising revenue for a very long time compared to the other social networks I mentioned before. So this is interesting. Many people don't realize this power. And so if you put a lot of time to create the video, then it's better than people use it longer time, right? So that's the one thing. And the second thing is video is it's still like this television thing. I'm on television, right? You see somebody as you know in a video. I don't know what it has, this medium, what it does with our brain. I cannot explain, but it gives this credibility, right? So it shows this person is on video. That means that this person is somehow important or something, which is not the case, but this is still implies, so it's quite interesting. So if you want to build your personal brand, do video. That's what I want to say. Start with a topic that you really care about, and do it regularly. Okay, make it a habit, like that you do. Let's say every 2 weeks or every month, you make a video. Or if you do every week, it's great, but maybe too much, right, for you. But it would be great every week, one video, perfect. And if you do that for a long time, like let's say 15, 20 years, okay, just you do videos, right? Fine. I can guarantee you that it will help you, and it will open doors that you thought not even existed before, simply because people find you and they approach you with things that you cannot figure, that you cannot make this up. Basically, it's crazy amazing. Also, it generates you revenue because you get money from advertising, from ads on your videos, and that can go for a long time. Yeah, so that can even be helpful in your pension. I'm not kidding. Yeah, that if YouTube is still there, yeah, then it can actually pay you on a monthly basis quite some nice money that you can use for in your pension time. So yeah, it can be a career path with a long term perspective. It's quite nice. So it helps you now, but it also helps you long term. That's why I really like it. Yeah. So how to do it exactly? There are many YouTube channels that can teach you how to become a YouTuber and stuff like this. But basically, how to do it you can find online, but what to talk about is something you're passionate about, and do it regularly. And it's not easy, but you should absolutely consider trying. At least, even if you fail, you should try, okay? Because if you never start, you don't even know if you like it or not. So basically, this is where I would wrap it up for this one, but I cannot say enough how important it is.
No, I like that. I like your thought process on that as well about YouTube obviously being a search engine that people can always find it. Because I fairly religiously post on LinkedIn to build my personal brand. Pretty much every day I'll post something on LinkedIn about something, my opinion or a piece of advice or a job vacancy or whatever it might be. But I actually wonder how often people have ever clicked on my page and gone back through the posts, even if it obviously shows the last few posts that you've done, but any further back than that. yeah, I'm not, obviously I don't know if anyone's kind of clicked back and had a look at it for stuff, right?
Yeah,
So
I think that
that's
that's
interesting.
why LinkedIn has this blog feature where you can actually blog and then launch it or distribute it through LinkedIn, connected to your profile, and that's something that does get read multiple times, and people can subscribe. And so, because of exactly that, they wanted to solve it. I still think YouTube is more powerful, but for that you need to learn how to do videos. And let me just say that in the last couple of months, amazing tools have come to life that help you edit videos much faster with AI and this kind of technology, which don't require you to learn how to cut exactly and to do the transitions and all this. A lot of work can be automated in a nice way. But don't ask me about the tools right now because I didn't use any of them yet. And the reason is that I'm still doing it the old-fashioned way because that's how I learned it. And I have to still transition my process. I have a full process of how exactly to do it, and it doesn't yet fit the new tools don't yet fit my existing process, which make the quality of the videos that I care about. So once they do fit, I will. Okay, but if you start from the scratch, you don't have a process, you don't care. So you can start from the scratch, you can use those tools from the beginning and grow from there, right? So then you'll be way faster than learning Final Cut Pro or something like this, which is way more work.
Okay, no, I like it. I like it. So just to go back a couple of questions or a couple of steps. Your current role at DappRadar. Could you talk us through what a day in the life of the VP of engineering at DappRadar looks like?
Yeah, I can do that. So it's like this, or let's a week, right? Roughly. So every day
Yeah.
we have stand-ups. That's quite normal because you have this agile process of of doing engineering or creating tech products. So in the morning hours, no matter like we are a remote company, but no matter where people are, we figured out a time that works for everyone. Okay, so in the morning, depending on where you're sitting, we have a stand-up. Each team, we have 7 teams. Each team has like a 15-minute slot, and they give each other updates. And they the most important part is not to so much to say how cool they are that they finished something yesterday. Sure, it matters, but way more important is that they share if they have any issues and they're blocked somewhere. So because after the stand-up, the colleagues can jump, help, figure it out together. That's what I care about, right? So I really care that they share these potential issues where they can't go forward without help from others, and then the other team members totally automatically, without me having to collaborate. They do teamwork, and that's really such a nice. I love the feeling when they jump and help each other. I really love it. So that's the first thing of the day, basically, for me, because for me it is morning hours. So that's what it is. And then after the stand-ups, there can be there is a slot blocked for me for jumping into calls with people that have longer questions after the stand-up. They might want to discuss something, or they are blocked somewhere and they need my particular help. Then I have time blocked for that, so they can use it. They can jump into the room, and I can help them. And then they are spread across the week. There are different important meetings that are part of the process, like a priority meeting, for example, where we decide the priorities of the business in general, not for the week in general. And they can change, right? Because depending on the market conditions, so Web3 is changing quickly. Yeah, so you have to adapt to whatever is going on. So we have this every week to be able to be agile and to shift around, and which will then be communicated, of course, to the teams, right? So if we shift priorities, then we communicate that to the team leads, and the team leads then talk to their team members, and they make sure to switch priorities and work on another thing or something, whatever relevant now. So that's quite important. There is a lot of price negotiation also with other companies, third-party companies, where we're paying services, right? We're paying for their service, but it's really important to always keep a good relationship with them, and to have calls, and to make sure that you are, when they launch a new feature, you check it out. But also, if you start using way more of their capacity, you can get a better deal, right? So negotiations of price, and always keeping up to date on what is the cost of your infrastructure. So on a daily basis, I'm looking at the top 10 items that generate most of the costs of the business. I'm looking at the because it can spike suddenly, right? If somebody did something unexpected from the developers, they can consume suddenly a lot of whatever it is, and I have to know about it, right? And go there and say, hey, what's happening? It might be okay, might not be okay. Yeah? So that's quite important. And this way we were able to save quite a lot of money. I would not say how much, but considerable amount per year by just being so accurate about these numbers, right? And taking care of them. So that's quite important. And other than that, a lot of soft skills, basically, where you do jump into calls with like also like they are scheduled, right, with the leadership or with people that you think that need need my guidance. So this way I can learn about the personal life, family, or holidays, what they care about, but also I can motivate them, right? I can you have to be very attentive, to figure out, okay, where is this person? Is this person already hyped about what we're doing? Or are they working on something boring? Or boring is always subjective, but maybe they think it is. And then I can explain why what they're doing is actually super important. Mostly is, right, honestly. Just they don't have realized maybe that what they're doing will have a massive positive impact. So I have to remind them, because then it gives their job more purpose, and that's quite important. So it's not just about organizing tasks and being just a tech guy, but it's really about understanding the people behind that actually are doing the work, and really getting to know them, and be almost their friend, honestly. Like, just be close and be a fun leader to work with, basically. Yeah. So I think that wraps it up. And sometimes flying to where they are and meet them in person. Yeah, honestly, like, just
Okay,
spend time together. Yeah.
that's good. So being in engineering leadership, is that how you imagined it would be? Now you've been doing that role for a while.
Well, that's a good question. I think recently I didn't ask myself this question because it's kind of a natural thing by now. That for me it's not so much. I don't wonder why I do this or that. But I think it's hard to answer for me, because I was a CEO before, where I was the CEO of the whole business. I was responsible for everything, not just the engineering, and that was so tough that that having just one department is like holidays. Like, if I remember back, it's cool. Like, you have the engineering department is very important, right? It's the biggest one also in DappRadar. In most companies it's huge. In most tech companies, right, it's huge, and it consumes a lot of money, and so you have a lot of responsibility. But you do not have marketing and sales and finance and all this crazy stuff, HR, like, it's, so for me it's like it's easier than I expect, that I am used to.
Yeah.
I think if you really like something, and you have this, not maybe talent, but more like the inclination to some particular job or activity, then it feels easy for you, right? Like, you at the beginning, it's mostly hard. Even if you have talent, some part of it is not fun, right? But then once you have overcome this and you have done it enough, it is. So for me, it feels natural. Let's say not easy, but natural. And it's not something where I would feel like, oh, I should do something else, right? For me, it's clear. And I learned that maybe a bit late. I learned that because I'm 39 now. Yeah, I learned it quite late. What is exactly the role that I care about? Because when you do engineering and leadership, then often you get pushed into product management as well, not because you want to, but because there is no product manager and somebody has to do it. And so if you're anyway managing the developers and telling them what to do, why not also plan the features themselves, and well, just do it. Of course, it's impossible, because you can't, like, trust me, you cannot have the product guy and the engineering be the same. That's not a good idea. If you do that, it's not going to work. I guarantee you that. I had these roles many times, but it's very hard, and it's not efficient, basically. Okay, so compared to that, like, I learned, okay, I'm not the product guy, I'm not the sales guy, I'm not the marketing guy, but I am the engineering guy. So the faster you figure this out for your own life, the better, because then you can really focus on it, and you can become super good. You can have a YouTube channel about it, because that's your topic, right? You can have stage talks, you can have whatever, good jobs, and so on, and everything you can imagine around that particular thing that you're doing. If you take forever to figure this out, and you're always jumping around, and sometimes you're doing this and I'm doing that, then it's very hard to pin down what are you good at. And then when somebody asks you, you don't know what to say. What are you doing? You do everything. but nobody believes. That's very hard to believe, okay, that you do everything. Even if you can, nobody believes it. How is that possible, right? So I think it's very important to specialize in something, but not early, not super early, but gradually towards your 30s or mid 30s or something like that. You should kind of understand what you're really good at and what you care about, and really focus on that and deliver on that, and build a brand, to cover the previous question, to build a brand around that, right? And then everything makes sense and fits together.
Yeah, I like that advice. I speak to engineers all the time, and people who've gone into the engineering leadership, and if they've been pushed into the engineering leadership side because that's just the natural route that they've gone, a lot of the time, a lot of the people I speak to actually miss actually engineering themselves and think, you know what, I wouldn't actually mind going back to being more of a hands-on engineer with less management and less leadership, because they miss the fun side of actually building and developing things. So actually working out what it is you want to do and the direction that you want to go in, what you enjoy, what you're good at, sooner rather than later, I think is a really good point, because you'll save yourself a lot of time in the long run, a lot of headache.
Absolutely. I mean, what you just said is quite important, because I didn't mention it, but you hit the nail on the head, and it's quite an important thing. For me, it's already like, yeah, of course, you shouldn't push any engineer into a leadership role. For me, that's absolutely like clear. Don't do it. Yeah. But so you see, like sometimes it becomes second nature. You don't even know that's something to mention. That's I should mention this, right? But yeah, you have to mention this. Like if you promote a developer that is super good developer and everything to a leadership role, there is a very high chance they would fail, because they're not good at managing humans. They're good at managing machines. Okay, big difference. All right. So if you take him away or her away from managing machines and put him managing humans, and you think, it's the same. It's not the same. Humans are random. Okay, machines always do the same. It's okay. So it's for me, it's normal. Don't do it. Right. It's very, very bad idea, because you will lose that developer, because the developer will fail and then he will get fired, or he will quit himself because they don't feel well. Okay, something is wrong. You can never demote them and put them back into where they were. I mean, you can, but you have to do it from the beginning. And so that's when you don't do it, because if you demote them, say, okay, so you know what? You're not a head of or a team lead or something. Now you get back to be a normal guy, and I put another guy. How does that look like? Like it feels like a failure. The colleagues might feel strange about it. Anyway, so really bad idea. Really think 10 times about doing this. And if you do it and you're not sure, do the following thing. This is the tip of the year, okay? So to not lose this developer, right? You go to the whole team and you say, listen, we want to promote this guy to be a team lead, but we're not sure if it's going to work out. Tell everyone, okay? If it doesn't work out, we put him back where he came from. Because if everyone knows that that's your plan, it's fine. If you then do it a year later, it's fine. You told everyone, it's clear, no problem. And he can come back. You can keep the salary, I guess. It's a bit hard to put the salary down, okay? But everyone will be fine. If you don't say that and it happens, everyone will be like, that was for sure not the plan, and right. So it will be bad mood, So if you do that, you can do this kind of experiments as well.
I like that, and then you don't lose the motivation of the team in there as well. If they see the leadership shopping and changing. Just on that side of it, on the motivation side of things. Obviously, over the last year or so, you guys have been building in a bear market. What's that been like? Is there a different mindset that you have to have with the team within the bear market, or a different approach that you have to take, or is it any different at all?
Yeah, it is a bit different because of the resources. You simply have to. By the way, every company has to do this, right? It's not just. So when you say bear market, I was thinking of Web3 specific, but no, it's like basically the whole. Also, the traditional market is in a bear market, really, and every company in a downturn of the market, right? Especially in a recession, which might come as well, but that's a different topic. You must look at your efficiency, and you must trim down unnecessary costs and improve your processes. And it's a must. Okay, the whole point of this downturn is to reset the economy, meaning the companies within that system, to become more efficient, so that they can get out of that, because they don't get out because somebody says now recession is over. No, they get out because they are more productive by doing what I just said. Okay, so we have the same, right? We have the same. We basically, okay, there is a downturn in crypto is more hard, right? Because boom, you have minus 80% or something. Bitcoin, it's bad, yeah. So you feel it quickly and it's rough. In the S&P 500, it's like 25, 30. Wow, yeah. So it takes longer to take hold in that, but both have the same issue. And for us, to get back to us, basically, we have the following. We said, okay, we will spend a bit less money on stuff like events, flying around, basically. And we will spend a bit less money on technology, and we will cut down some projects which the ones that we think have less impact, positive impact, right? So we cut them down and we put the resources on the ones that have most impact. Logic, right? But imagine this situation, okay? You have infinite money. What do you work on first? Everything. It doesn't matter, okay? You can do everything at the same time. Who cares, right? But if you have little money, whatever that means for your business, you have to think. You have to prioritize. It's called prioritize, okay? And prioritizing is very hard for human brain, really. Like if you ask somebody, what is this or this or this more important, then which one is more important? All of them. No, that's impossible, okay? So if you have less resources, it forces you to do research, to find out what should I do first, second, third, fourth, and compared to if you have infinite money. Infinite money was before we started before we started increasing interest rates, right? Because everyone had, basically, you could go to the bank, you got like 0.5, 1% interest rate. That was amazing, yeah? So it was infinite money, and who cares? You can hire 1,000 people, it's fine. I think it's actually better to have less money, depending on the period where you are, but because it makes you plan and decide and really think. You have to, right? And I think it's good. And it's like it's phases, obviously, and for us it's the same. So now we have to plan more. Okay, we have to prioritize better. We have to talk to the community more, and we should do it anyway. But like, we should just do more research and make sure that what we're building, because the building always is very expensive, yeah, is really worth it, right? And that's kind of logical. You should do it any case, even if you have a lot of money. But somehow the brain doesn't work like this, yeah. So now more companies do what I just said because they have to, and I think it's absolutely perfectly fine. For us, we also we had a few layoffs and all, right? Like, it's like the total normal trim down of inefficiency, yeah. But now it looks very good. I have to say, it goes back up. Everything looks very positive, and we are quite hyped about where it's going. That's why we're hiring again, right? We're hiring in the engineering teams. You can find the job somewhere on LinkedIn and stuff. But you see, like, it's a few months of that, but then it goes back up. So that's how I would describe it.
So obviously you help startups and you're a mentor in that space. What are some of the common mistakes that you've seen other startups and things make?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially for Austrian startups, where I meet hundreds of startups a year at our events and our leadership programs and education programs. I see basically one thing that I think is the most important mistake that I would mention. So that is that startups are building things nobody needs, right? And so, like, it's funny, like, so basically they just want to, I don't know, it's an internal feeling. I can totally relate. That's the problem, because I did that as well. I built stuff nobody needs also, because but you have to learn fast that that's not the way. And often I hear what the startup is doing. I'm like, okay, explain what is the use case in real life. And then they start to talk for half an hour, basically. I'm exaggerating. And so if you take half an hour, okay, to explain to me something, then something is wrong, all right? Because I can explain to you how energy and mass is correlated with each other just by a short equation, like E equals mc squared, okay? But it's quite complex. But the guy was smart enough to bring it down to a very simple formula. So if you cannot explain your business and how you're solving a problem very quickly, okay, then something is wrong or fishy, right? Something, like, if you have to explain it to me to convince me, basically, it doesn't work, all right? So that's the biggest problem, because it leads to every other issue, okay? So it leads to burning money and having to do bridge rounds and to refinance and whatever, because you built the wrong thing. Now you have to pivot, right, to do some other thing, but you need fresh money. Oops. Right? It leads to just wasting resources, to waste of time and so on, and being late and some other competitor doing the right thing instead and so on. So anyway, I think research is very important. People don't understand how important it is to actually talk to the customers, go out there, meet people, before you build anything. And people always think tech is the problem. We need to find a developer to build something. Yeah? And they start building, but they didn't really do the research before. So you don't need a developer. Honestly, there are so many tools out there, right? And now comes the no code part of me thought process, right? Where you can build websites without coding, you can build apps without coding, you can build something like Airbnb without coding, to give you an idea, Twitter without coding, okay? You can build marketplaces without coding. There are tools, okay? So you can do, let's say, prototypes or even first versions of your product that even make you revenue because they have Stripe integration. Most of them have that, right? Where you can get money from people actually even, yeah? Without any developer, okay? It's just that people, they are afraid, founders are afraid to do that because, and here comes maybe the unpopular opinion, because it might prove that they're wrong. So instead of doing these prototypes and asking the market and allowing the market to say what you're doing doesn't make sense, they hide themselves in the development and in the creation part of the process because they are safe because there is no feedback, there's just creation, okay, and then you put it on the market and nobody wants it, and then the pain is coming anyway, right? You just delayed the issue, right? So that's maybe not so nice to hear, but that's the biggest problem that I see in startups, absolutely. And that's why some investors don't invest in your business, because you can't, there's no issue that you're solving that needs solving. And that's it. Or people are coming with, hey, let's use blockchain for X, but you don't need blockchain to solve that. Like, you can solve it with some traditional methods. Why would I? So that's also a red flag, when you do that stuff, because it's clearly you didn't do your research, So this
Definitely, yeah.
is really the mother of the issues that leads to everything else.
And are you seeing that happen in Web3 a lot at the moment?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because in Web3, people are recreating everything that was already existing, but just with Web3 technology. And in some cases, it's cool. Actually, it makes sense. But in most cases, it's absolutely worse than the other solution that we already have, because it's not there yet. Okay, like, you too early. Like, maybe in the future, like you want to do a social network on the blockchain. Wow, yeah. Let me tell you, yeah, I like the idea, by the way, of Lens protocol. It's really, really cool, but wow, we're so far away from something useful, right? So I think it's not smart. Okay, just use it when it makes sense, and don't use it when it doesn't make sense. It's so easy. Okay, like, I think payments and this kind of stuff, it makes a lot of sense with Web3, well, with blockchain technology, because truly it is much faster. And I don't like that banks don't transfer money on the weekend and at the end of the day. So it's, what the hell? Like, we're in the internet age, so that absolutely makes total sense to use blockchain there. Um, and for digital identity, I think blockchain technology and Web3 with wallets is absolutely perfect. Yeah, I think this is amazing technology. And for storing ownership of whatever it is, land and cars and apartments and stuff, so states could take advantage of this infrastructure that already exists, because usually a sovereign state has their own infrastructure for storing this information. They have their own servers, their own IT people managing these servers and these databases. Actually, you don't need that. You already have an infrastructure. It's called Ethereum. Okay, and you can just use that. It doesn't cost you anything. Just put it there, right? So this makes sense. Okay, those use cases, I think they are cool. But if you're starting to do, like, I will do a full game on the blockchain, wow, yeah, it's going to be pretty boring game, okay, because it's slow and it's, like, so there are some use cases where it makes sense, where it doesn't make sense. But I still think ultimately blockchain would not be used for everything that we was doing in Web 2. It doesn't replace everything. I don't think so. I think it will replace some parts which should be which represent ownership of items, and that those should be in your possession instead of the possession of Blizzard or Amazon or whatever, or Google or something. And I think that use case is gonna prevail for sure. Yeah.
Great. And I guess going back to your point a second ago, I guess we have to test that theory. So people have to build all these things, and we have to get them out to the market, and we have to test the market in order to then know where it's going to land. So I guess in this case, building stuff, then maybe it will fail, is probably a good thing in the long run. Do you think?
Yeah, no, you're fully right. Actually, I will not say the words, but you know this video, messing around and finding out. The more you mess around, the more you find out.
Yeah.
So absolutely, and some people have to fail with their startup just to prove that it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
It's. I'm not saying I'm not saying the system is like this, but 90% of startups, they don't make it. Okay, and that's like an average number. Yeah, so 10% make it, and the other guys and girls, they are basically proving that like this, it doesn't work. But funny enough, the next generation of startups, they, instead of looking back at these that failed and learn from that, they don't. And that's what I was criticizing before, is do your research, because please do not do the same mistakes that the other guys. Just do new mistakes, okay? At least do that, okay? So that people can learn from you, yes? But if you do the same mistake that some other guy did, then you don't help anybody, okay? You don't help yourself and not the next generation either. So, you know, that's the line that I draw, yeah? You can do experiments on stuff that nobody tried before. That's perfectly fine. But don't fail on something somebody already tried.
That's good advice. That's good advice. So, why did you take an interest in Web3 and blockchain in the first place?
Yeah, actually, that's a very good question. I bought my first NFT, I don't know, 2020, I guess,
Okay.
very late, or I don't know. And I thought, wait a minute, I'm tech guy. How does this stuff work even? Yeah. So I started looking, and how do I know that this is my NFT on the blockchain? Let me check this out, right? I started looking into the code, and it was for me, it was very hard to understand. Okay, really, like my brain was still Web 2, focused, and I didn't understand how can a code be distributed, running this in the distributed way, storing state meaning that there's a variable storing that you own this thing, and every other machine in the network knows that as well. And that's fascinating. Anyway, so that was so interesting. I talked to some friends and stuff, and then I started doing some tutorials. Crypto zombies, you might know, and stuff like this, where you can, for free, you can learn this online. I was, okay, let's do this. Okay, how hard can this be? And it was actually quite not hard at all, because it reminded me of JavaScript or TypeScript, TypeScript a lot. And so I started coding my first smart contracts, recreating an existing one, but creating my own, so that I have a representation, something to compare with, right? And so it was an NFT contract, and I just wanted to make sure that I build it from the bottom up to see if it works, and it worked. And then I was super hyped about after that, because I was able to actually deploy code on the blockchain. It worked even, and I saw that I'm able to complete the loop of starting and deploying and seeing it works. Boom! Now I can go nuts. And so I started to dig a bit deeper. How can you connect two smart contracts with each other so they can talk to each other, and they have different scope, but one is a coin, one is an NFT, one is a game, and blah. How can they somehow interact? And that was the next layer, and so on. But I wouldn't say that I'm like I'm a super good Solidity or something smart contract developer. I'm okay, right? But there are way better people out there. But I know enough to actually to build the platform that tracks smart contracts and has all the data about it, because that's important to understand smart contracts. But I think I know enough to understand the power, but also the limitation of the technology, right? To be able to compare the blockchains and what they offer, and what features they have, and what they would need actually to cover the next iteration of software. That like I said, social networks, they need this and this. Like, for example, distributed databases to be decentralized, that they don't exist yet in a efficient way, right? So that would be nice. So what got me there was the excitement that I own something, and I want to know how is that stored. And then that brought me deeper into the ocean, deeper and deeper. And then I did some YouTube videos actually about the topic, because I wanted to share what I learned in real time, kind of. and that spin the wheel. And this is how DappRadar found me online, and they said, hey, do you want to do you want to lead our engineering team? And yeah, so do your own YouTube channel. Okay, it helps.
That's cool. So it's the so your natural curiosity then, by the sound of it, is what led you into to Web3.
It was also the like it was the right time, because there was such a hype about NFTs, and that gave me the additional motivation to say, what is this stuff? Why is everyone going crazy? Is this really yours? And how is it stored? Because everyone says you own this piece of art or something, right? I was like, is it really like that? So I made a video that explains that it's not quite exactly like that. So you can check that out on YouTube, right? So this, like, the hype also helped to push me right into the direction.
Okay. And do you think to be successful as an engineer, not just within Web3, but also in Web2 as well, do you think you have to have a natural curiosity? Is that something you can develop over time?
I think you should have this curiosity, absolutely, because there is this adoption curve, right? The bell curve for adopting new technologies, innovation, and you can Google that, right? It's like innovation adoption curve, right? And you will see that at the left side there is there are the early adopters, and those people have this curiosity, right? They have it, okay? Like, that's why they try new things, and they don't have any fear of maybe failing when they try this thing, or it doesn't work, or it has $50, but they still like it. And then there is a chasm where jumping from early adopter to the early majority, it's called. This is a lot of people actually in the almost half of the curve actually. Well, 40%, yeah. That's quite hard, because you have to have these early adopters now start convincing the early majority. Like, let's say you talk to your friend, and you're an early adopter and your friend is not, then you say, hey, I saw this cool thing, yeah, let me show you. And then you're convincing them, and thus you're spreading the news. And then so the early adopters, they have to have this curiosity. The early majority, they can get triggered once in a while by friends or influencers to try something, but they don't have this all the time. They have it only once in a while, this curiosity, right? It comes and goes, yeah, depending on their life mood, yeah. And then you have the rest of the curve on the right side, where these people, they will take quite many years to actually get to look at that at all, right? Like, it will take 5 to 10, 15 years. There are still people that don't have a smartphone, okay? Those people. So for example, the late majority is still 40%. It's still a massive. Those are like my parents, for example. Right? So they didn't get a smartphone unless I told them about it, or the company they work for demanded it, right? And then there is the late majority. They will never get a smartphone. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You have to force them, basically. Okay, so if you keep that in mind, and that happens with every technology, internet, even the telephone in the past, television, everything, yeah. And that's with Web3 the same. Even if we have way easier means of spreading information now, it's still like that. It's just maybe it takes a few years less than in the past, but it's still the same idea. And so it's okay if you don't have this curiosity, by the way. And sometimes it's also like, you don't have to have curiosity for everything. Okay, listen, you don't have to be curious of every single, gardening and IT and whatever, reading, who cares? But if you have one thing that you really care about, and there you're early, that's totally cool, right? That's what makes you unique, right? And that's what gives you the motivation to dig into that thing and not into 50 other things. And I have a few friends, by the way, and I'm unfortunately similar. We love looking into new things all the time, and that's cool, but it's also quite tough, because if you want to be super good at one thing, you have to be very disciplined if you're like this, right? So it's way easier if you only or if only one thing, I'm exaggerating, one thing is great, yeah, but if one thing fascinates you and that's it, it's actually easier, because you don't have to force yourself to deny the other things, because it's automatic, so it's actually better if you focus on one thing and you get excited about that, and everything else you don't care. Totally fine, yeah. and I recommend that. But I think in the Web3 space right now, if you don't have this curiosity, it's a bit it's hard to get hired or to get into such a company, because they will look for this inner motivation, this intrinsic motivation. They would look for this fire. You have to be on fire, okay? And because the industry is moving so fast, so if you don't have this natural tendency of trying new things and not being afraid of them and stuff, it is a bit harder to convince someone to hire you in this space.
For sure. And do you have to have a different mindset to build in Web3, with everything being way more public than it is within Web2 companies, both from a code perspective, if you're an engineer, but also down to the community as well? So obviously community is a massively important part of any project. Do you have to have a different mindset with everything being so out there and visible?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's very similar to open source programming from the past, which we already had before. It's very, very, very similar, because, well, your code is also open source, and you want to create an environment where everyone that wants can contribute to this code. But there is one difference, where instead of one company or one consortium is deciding if your code will make it into the next release or not. Here in the Web3 space, it can be a DAO, for example, right? So they vote, right? And that's an evolution. But so if you come from open source, it's very natural to you, okay? And you just add this voting and this governance on top, and you'll be fine, okay? You need to learn a few extra tools for managing this voting process, but it's not a big issue. If you don't come from open source, which most people don't, then it is quite different, and you have to start understanding the mentality and the idea and why would it make any sense. But it is quite logical, actually, if you think about it, to think in this way, because you build in public, you build in a way that everyone can contribute. But then if what you're doing actually is worthwhile, and some people get excited, and developers specifically get excited, and they start contributing to your code base, well, that's perfect, no? Like, you save a lot of time and money and finding people, because it's a natural selection of people that really care. They will come and contribute, and so they will be on fire. They will understand. They will like what you're doing. They will whatever. You can hire them even later, right? So it's very nice. Like, it makes logical sense. So it is different. And I think that if you come from a just Web2 and you got used to controlling everything and stuff, then and you have this mindset, right, built for years, that you have to be in control of absolutely everything, and nobody else can mess around or give you ideas or something. There are people like this. They will have like almost impossible time to adopt this, and they will be late majority on the curve, and they will maybe never adopt it, or they will never try, or whatever, or they simply not work in the industry. So I think that you have to be a little bit you have to have this mindset of trusting that humanity is not screwed, because if you build in public, you hope that somebody will, or the people that come to contribute, they will be benevolent, right? But if you believe that humanity is doomed and so on, you will never even try, because you think they're all idiots and they will never contribute anything useful. But that's not true, okay? Right? So depending on your mindset, you will have to adapt massively. So that's how I see it. Yeah.
Okay. So in your opinion, then, obviously you just mentioned there around depending on your mindset. In your opinion, what are some of the other challenges which need to be overcome before blockchain becomes more mainstream to build with?
Yeah, I think the decentralization concept is cool, and it is worth pursuing. But I think there are some elements missing that don't allow actually real proper decentralized applications to exist for like more complex use cases than just adding and subtracting numbers, because that's what it is, right? If you send money around, that's almost the easiest use case on the planet. Okay, like, that's not magic. Yeah. So if you want a bit more complex applications to be built in a decentralized manner, then you need three elements to be decentralized. Like, three elements that every app has. It has a visual representation, some website or app or something visual, right? You have a database. That's the second thing. Everyone has a database somewhere, right? And then you have business logic. that is combining these two together. The business logic will decide what happens when you click a button, and what happens when you submit the form, right? And so on. So these three elements, every app on the planet has, okay? They have these three elements. But now you need these three elements to also exist in the Web3 space, in the blockchain decentralized space. But they don't exist, right? Because you don't have decentralized databases that are fast enough to store proper amounts of data. I'm talking about gigabytes of data that you can retrieve quickly, which you need, okay? For if you have a proper social network, that's what you have to do. For example, because I mentioned Lens protocol before, if you read their documentation, you figure out that their database is a Postgres on Amazon, okay? So, yeah, because there is no solution. So that has to be solved, right? To be proper decentralized. And I'm pretty sure they will migrate to something like this if it would exist. The business logic is the smart contract, okay? That you can program logic like if this, then that, and then this and that. It exists, it's there. You cannot maybe do very complex business logic because try to do AI on the blockchain in the decentralized way with a decentralized model, it's not going to work. But you can do simple things, yeah. So that's why we do those simple games, simple, money markets, exchanges, and stuff like that. NFTs. It's that those are actually simple use cases. So what we need is the database. We need a bit more stronger business logic that we can write with complex algorithms like sorting things, okay, like it's quite basic, yeah, sorting a list of items so that you can then, for example, give it back and you have a high score that is sorted top down. Yeah, try that on the blockchain, okay? You can, but it's not going to survive with more than 1,000 elements. It will have out of memory because it's not made for that, right? So there is a lot of limitations everywhere. Like in the beginning of the computer age where you had to manage your RAM. If you use too much RAM, it was crashing and stuff. Today we have enough RAM, it's very cheap. But we have exactly the same issue on the blockchain because we start super low level and we have to manage RAM again, right? Kind of. So, yeah, so we will get there, but that's also missing. So you can't do complex apps, okay, really. So that's why most of these projects, they focus on the core, which is storing ownership only. And that's fine. That doesn't take a lot of compute power to store ownership, that your address owns some element, some ID, right? It's very small amount of information. And that's what most people do, right? So you have a game that is completely outside of the chain, but it stores in the chain changes of ownership. So if you have lost an item, they will just burn your NFT. Or if you gain an item, they will mint it. So that's easy, right? No, it's no problem. The game is outside. But if you try to have that game, let's say you have an open source project for smart contract code, and you want to build a game together with the community, okay? Like that's not gonna work right now because the business logic would be so complex that it doesn't make it onto the blockchain. So it doesn't. You can't vote on it. You can't do things like this. So that's unfortunate. But so that's missing as well. And the visual representation of an app, you can already outsource, not outsource, but have that decentralized by coding it with JavaScript, for example, and then putting it on Arweave or on IPFS or something like this, and you load it from there. That already would work. It has a few security issues because you have to put your API keys there, and it's a bit bad. But long story short, this is more solved than the other two elements that I mentioned, which is database and business logic. So those still need a lot of work to really allow us as developers to build complex and really life-changing stuff on top of the blockchain in a decentralized way.
So you mentioned quite a few challenges there. If you were given either an unlimited pot of money or unlimited resources or the best engineers in the world or best minds in the world, whatever it might be, is there any particular challenge that you'd love to have a go at solving yourself?
I mean, I would really like to go. I talked about this already with a few engineers. I would like to solve this problem of this decentralized database. It's such a massive thing. It will enable so many things. I would like that. I know it's not solving world hunger, but hey, I'm a tech guy. Okay, so that would be really fascinating for me. Okay, really like very very interesting. And other than that, I would like to also I really like YouTube, but imagine a YouTube that is owned by the people and they own their content and so on. That would be quite fascinating as well. things like that, in that direction. Yeah. Everything has to, like, for me, what fascinates me is helping other people be in control and solve problems, right? So if those come together, I'm super happy. But I have to think a bit more about, if you want more use cases. But those are like the ones, like the database thing. I would start quite fast. If anyone has enough funds, I can, you know, I can start
So anyone
building that.
anyone listening with enough money who wants to
Yeah,
invest in
no,
a new idea, drop me a
it's
message.
maybe even at DappRadar we will even raise some funds for this, because the thing is, we care about this as well as a business, because our data is now on Amazon, right? And we load it into our website and it's fine. But actually, the data is from the blockchain. And if we want, for example, governance over this data, I mean, long story is that if you find a dApp on the platform and it looks like it has a lot of users, unique users, and a lot of volume, what if that's wrong? Or what if they faked it somehow? Or they just created a lot of wallets and they just want to manipulate the numbers? Then it would be great if it is in a decentralized database and it's stored there. The community can say, hey, this data is not correct, we vote for removing it or making a change. And because it's a decentralized database, you can automate it like this, and they can vote, and boom, it gets removed, and it's governed by the DAO, basically, right? So, and that's great. And this would be one use case for this decentralized database that we would also want to use ourselves. Okay. And so that's where the idea comes from. But it could be its own startup, honestly. And it could be a joint venture between DappRadar and someone else, because it's such a big thing, right? If so, and then that would be, for the common good. Yeah.
So if there was something that you could change about Web3, then what would that be?
That's a good question. I really don't like this idea of everything has to make money, otherwise people don't use it, because everything is about assets and value of these assets, because they are tradable, and that's the whole point, right? But it's a bit pity, because in history we learned that some things make sense only after, because of this adoption curve. Okay, even if you have the best thing on the planet, but not enough people care about it, because there is not enough communication about it, whatever the reason, then it doesn't have a chance to make it. So in the normal traditional or Web2, let's call it, or also Web2 investment space, where investors would put money down for an idea that might sound stupid to most people because they are not early adopters, yeah, but for them it's cool, they understand that's the future, then they would give you money for that, right? Now, then the investors go away and you do your thing. Okay, you report to them and so on, but they're not coming and like, hey, say, when moon, that's not what an investor does. Okay. Yeah. But if you're in the Web3 space and you do that, you sell your token to get some cash to build your thing, the community will be on your ass very quickly, and they will not have any patience whatsoever that something takes time to develop. But it takes time. Okay, like a startup usually takes between 3 and 5 years to prove itself or to go bankrupt. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's a bit stupid, because you're gonna invest your valuable time in explaining the community to relax and everything gonna be fine, instead of building the thing that you're supposed to be building, because everyone is freaking out and asking like when moon and stuff like this. And that's quite annoying, because it's not how it works in the investment universe. And that's why it's a bit tricky, okay, to build real big stuff with like IDOs and coin sales and stuff. So Web3 companies are moving, saying, hey, we have Web3, but we're not selling our coin to the public. We're selling it to normal investors, because we don't want the pain of the community being up our ass every day. Okay, because we don't have, like, later you can do that later once you are more stable and so on, and then sure, right, do that. So we still have to fix that somehow, because traditional investors are also boring. I want to believe that it is totally okay, and it also makes sense to have any person on the planet invest in your business at any time they want, and it should be a viable method. Okay, but for now it's not so much a viable method, because they will drag you down more than they spend on your product. Yeah? So you make a change to something on your tokenomics because you want to make it more efficient for longer term, and everyone is freaking out because they make less money. Yeah, but long term you make more money. Okay, yeah, but I want more money now. So this mindset, I would like to change that
Yeah.
if I could. Yeah.
I don't think you're alone in wanting to change that mindset. To be honest, I'm definitely part of a few communities where all you see people talk about is we haven't had an update for the last couple of weeks, and when are things going to go to the moon and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, you're definitely not alone on that. Is there a particular piece of advice or any advice that you wish you'd have been told earlier on in your career that would have been really useful?
Yeah, I mean, I remember I was in London or at some point at what's called the wax museum thing. Uh,
Madam Two Swords, is that
yes,
it? I
that's
think.
that one. Yeah, and I went through
Yeah.
a room where they showed YouTubers because they're also celebrities, right? YouTubers. They showed YouTubers, and I didn't understand. Like for me, it was like, what the hell? Like, why would I? Yeah, nice. They have a YouTube channel, and they were like, MKBHD and everything, and I didn't understand. And so I would really love to somebody tell me, listen, it's so important to have a YouTube channel, to put it very simple, yeah, but a personal brand really, and to go out there and share your knowledge and share your thoughts and stuff. Because that also makes you a different person in the sense that depends what you're doing with your channel, right? Like, but I'm talking about sharing knowledge, okay, not something else, not dancing or something,
Mhm.
um, because that forces you really to research more, to read more, to be more up to date, and to have your arguments straight. Because otherwise, you cannot produce any video that makes sense. So it makes you a better person or more knowledgeable automatically because you think different. You think now suddenly you don't think about I have to understand it, but you think like how would I explain it to somebody, which is way different thought process, and it's very cool. Like your mind needs a bit of time maybe to get there, but once you get there, it helps you also being a better leader because it helps you be explain things to people, like a group of people, right? And manage their feedback, right? If they say, hey, I don't understand this, then how would you answer? So it's really like I would really love somebody to take me and say, hey, you should do a YouTube channel about whatever I was passionate about back then, and yeah, that would have helped me way earlier.
Do you think you'd have still ended up in tech if you'd have made a YouTube channel
No, yeah,
back then?
because I did tag way before. I mean, I did tag from the beginning, and I think I would definitely be in that same space. I might just have had more opportunities, or I don't know, cooler projects or something earlier. I'm happy where I am now, but might have had more chances, more open doors. You never know, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, Michael, I've really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you very much for your time today. It's been great. You've shared some really good insights. Um, if anyone listening or watching wants to reach out to you, is there a place that works? Is it YouTube, for example?
Yeah.
Commented on some of your stuff. Is it LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I on YouTube there is this about tab. You can click there and then you can reveal the email and write me an email there. You can also go to michaelionita.com, which is my website. You can click there and also send me an email. LinkedIn is always a good idea as well, or even Twitter. And if you want to put this information somewhere below the video or something, it would make it easier.
Yeah,
But
I'll tag it.
yeah. So Twitter is also a good idea, but it's a bit harder because messages get hidden in this, hidden thing. So it's way better to send me an email. I would see that way faster, especially if we're not yet connected, right? If we're already connected, fine, and then everything works, of course. And yeah, I love to hear from you, especially when it's about Web3, blockchain, no code. Let's go.
Great. Sounds cool. Well, yeah. Thanks again for your time, and yeah, I'll
Thank
speak
you.
to you soon.
Thanks, man.
Take care.